Alright, so back at it again with this 2019 New Proof Scout, and today I'm going to show you how you get rid of a creaking bottom bracket that isn't the typical method of greasing it up and greasing the threads. That bottom bracket right there, it's a race face, like cinch type bottom bracket, it's creaking. I've tried greasing it twice and it doesn't work, so I'm going to show you a method that I made up that actually resolves it every single time. I've done it multiple different times and it works like a treat every single time. Not seen anybody else mention it, so I consider it my original trick, but yeah, let's get started. Alright, so now for tools, equipment, you need a bottom bracket tool. This is thread seal tape, PTFE tape, or it might be called plumber's tape as well. You can use gas rated or you can use water rated, it doesn't really matter, they both work. You need an 8mm Allen key. This is for the crank bolt. It's usually an 8mm, it might be a 6, depends on your crank. Some grease, a rag, and a cleaner. This is brake cleaner, this works fine. You can also use isopropyl alcohol, and I think you can use white spirit as well. To get started, first thing you want to do, shift down into the smallest cog of your derailleur, and you want to turn your clutch off, like so. On a Shimano, if your clutch actually turns off, Shimano, you just flick that lever down. And what you want to do, pull the derailleur cage forward, and you want to take the chain off of the chainring. Now the chain's off, grab your 8mm Allen key, and you want to sort of put this in so it's at like a 180 degrees angle, so it's opposite from the crank arm, so that when you put force onto this, you can actually open it and hold your other hand on this side. Now that I've got that loose and backed it out a little bit, you'll feel some resistance as you get to the bolt inside pushes on the crank and it self-extracts. Most cranks nowadays are like this, so you'll feel a bit of resistance. Don't worry, you just keep turning and eventually your crank will come off. Right, so now that you've got the crank arm off, on this race face cinch there's a little spacer thing. Just want to pull that out, and they like this, set this aside. And also the crank arm you want to remove from the other side. This will usually pull out from the other side. The self-extracting bolt, it's either on race face it's on the drive side, but on Shimano and on GXP it's on the non-drive side, so your bolt will be that side and this side will be the spindle that actually pulls out. Right, now this is removed. It's probably a good idea to clean this up, because clean all of this up, so the chain spacer and the other side crank as well. These usually get a load of crap right around there, you know, all the way around. You're gonna want to clean that off. It helps with the creaking as well. And this side as well, you want to make sure you get all inside there, clean all of it out so it's like new. And if you want to change your chainring, now's the time. I haven't got mine yet, it's not came, so can't change it yet. Now that you've got your cranks out, grab your bottom bracket tool, which is specific to your bottom bracket, and just you want to slide this on and grab a breaker bar or a wrench. For the specific one you can use either. So when grab one of those, you want to put this on and just, oh no, that's not good. Alright, so turns out I actually don't have the right bottom bracket tool. This isn't what I thought it was. Thought it used the same as Shimano and GXP, but it doesn't. So what I'm about to do is going to look really bad, but it's, if I'm careful, it should be alright. Grab some pliers, and you want to just grip these so you make sure it's fully on there. Grab the handle as hard as you can with both hands and just turn. Bottom brackets loosen toward the front of the bike, so on the drive side it'll turn clockwise, and on the non-drive side it turns anti-clockwise. So yeah, I'm gonna do it like this. It's not one of my brightest ideas, but I've done this before and it should, if I'm careful, in theory, it should work. Alright, now that you've got the bottom bracket out with the right tools, I hope, this will just wind out towards the front of the bike, same way that you, and out comes one cup, and other side, out comes the other. One of them will have one of these liners in it, so yeah, set those aside. Right, now everything's removed from the bottom bracket and all the stuff around it. All of that's gone. Now you want to grab a rag, grab your cleaner, and you want to clean all of this out. So all of these threads inside, all the frame as well, because that's quite a hard place to access. Just all the little threads and stuff, clean all of it out like so. Now that all this is nice and clean, you want to make sure that there isn't any like specks of dirt or like rust or anything like that inside these threads. The cleaner these threads are, the better chance you have of your bottom bracket not creaking again. You don't want to pull all this back apart again. It's best you be thorough. Next step, shift your focus to all the little parts that you removed. So bottom bracket, the crankset, both of it, and like the spacers and stuff. clean all of this as well. All the threads on the bottom bracket, the splines, the inside of there, the chain ring, behind the cranks, all of it needs to be nice and clean. Well, all this is all nice and cleaned up, so the spacers, chain ring, the crank, and the threads in the bottom bracket. Here's where the trick comes in. The trick is to not use any grease. What you want to use is this PTFE tape. I'm going to wrap it around these threads. The way PTFE tape works is, and why this actually works, is because creaking is caused by movement, and a liquid or like a semi-solid kind of thing like grease or lubricant, that displaces when you're threading the bottom bracket in. PTFE tape, it doesn't displace, it doesn't move. So what happens is, if your bottom bracket moves just the tiniest of a bit, that's what causes the creak. What the PTFE tape does is it fills in the little voids, the little craters in the threads, fills up any little slack, any little movement, and it makes it so that the bottom bracket doesn't creak any longer. I've used this multiple times on those two bikes, and it works on both of them. So yeah, the way you wrap PTFE tape is you don't follow the threads, you go kind of opposite to the threads, so that when you thread in, the edge of the tape doesn't catch and as you're threading it in, it doesn't thread itself, the tape doesn't thread itself back off. I'll show you what I mean when I've threaded it onto this one. Right, this is threaded up now, taped up, and if you can see the seam right there, you can see it's kind of the opposite way to the threads. So what this means is when you thread this in and these threads catch, you're turning it this way, which means it goes against the lip of the tape. If you were to thread the other way, the threads would catch onto this side and just pull the tape off. You want it so that when you thread this in, the threads go along with the tape and sort of through it instead of lifting up this edge. We've got this taped up. You want to tape up the other one as well, which I've already done off camera, and then this will thread in a little bit more difficult than if you were to use grease, just because it's a thicker sort of grease, lubricant, whatever. You're not using any of that. So with threading this in, you want to make sure that you've taped it around really tightly, and second thing you want to do is just press all the way over. Make sure it's all sort of stuck to itself and stuck to the bottom bracket properly. If you make sure you can sort of see the threads through it. And for this, I usually use around 2 layers. More than that, I find it's too difficult to thread in, and less than that, it doesn't really make a difference. 2 layers is round about the golden spot. So to thread this in just as you would normally, just want to thread this in, get it started, and you'll feel a little bit of resistance, obviously, because you're using a different kind of way of doing it. So I'll just thread this in once it's got started, and as it starts to thread in, you'll feel what I mean when I say that it sort of fills in the voids a little, because you can see as it's got tighter already. This is because it's filling in the space between the threads where the creaking is caused. So you'll need your tool to thread this in any further. It gets quite tight. When you do the other side, when you have your little spacer thing in between the little rubber o-rings on the end, just want to put a little bit of grease all over them, all the way around that little rubber o-ring, and then press it into the bottom bracket cup. This is so water from inside your seat tube or inside your cable routing holes, it doesn't get through into your bottom bracket bearing. So you want to grease this up. This is quite important as well. Alright, now I've tightened this up using my less than ideal ways, and you can see when you use grease, you can see the grease sort of squeeze out the sides. Obviously with this tape you can't see any of it, it's all there and it's all in the threads holding it properly together. So the next step that's going to happen is, what you're going to do, grab your crank arm and your grease. You want to grease up this entire spindle, especially where those bearing surfaces are. You can see the previous owner of mine didn't really do that very well. If it'll focus, you can see little bits of corrosion all the way around. So yeah, you want to make sure this greases up properly all the way through, and you want to also grease these splines at the end and the threads there. With the main spindle grease, you want to go to the other side and grease sort of inside here, so you see all those little splines in there. Crank presses into those, and the threads are right there as well. I don't know if you can see those very well, but the threads are right there. Grease all of that up as well. You can sort of just pack that with grease, not really tight, but enough. With this now nice and greased, you can see the grease sort of in there. You want to move your tension back to the bottom bracket, and just little sort of plastic spacer thing. You want to make sure you don't put any grease around here, but what you want to do is sort of just get a little dab of grease on a finger or like a brush or something. Just the inside of it. Try to not get any on the outside, but the inside you want to get a little bit of grease on as well, all the way inside, both sides as well. Now that all that's done, grab your crank arm with the grease on stuff all over it, and you want to make sure also any little plastic sort of rings or spaces or anything, you want to make sure you don't miss those out, because they're all important for the preload. Sometimes they'll have them on here, sometimes they'll have them on the chainring side. Make sure you definitely don't want to miss any of those. It's for the preload, and you'll have play in your cranks if you don't. Now just put the crank through the other side, so like that. Just get the crank inside all the way down to the other side and just give it a little tap. Just make sure it's through all the way. And then you want to grab, if you have any little spacers, grab a little spacer if you have one, and just put that on as well. And then the crank arm, probably the easiest way to put this on is to sort of have this against the surface. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put it behind onto that surface over there with the boxes and stuff. I'm going to put it onto there and then put this crank arm on and put force onto it while I tighten up the knot. I'll show you as I do it. Alright, now to get your crank arm on, grab your crank, and also you want to grab your Allen key, and what you want to do, you have to make sure these are 180 degrees apart, and then make sure this is sort of pushed onto something. This other crank arm is pushed onto somewhere, and then all you got to do, grab your crank. I don't know how well you can see this, but grab your crank just when you'll feel it sort of locate onto the split ends. It's quite difficult sometimes, so there we are, we got that onto the crank. And then while we're holding this forward, grab your Allen key and just sort of start the threads. You'll feel them catch. You want to make sure you don't actually cross thread it though, because if you do, that's a really bad day. Alright, so I think those threads have caught now. Yep, those threads have now caught. So now, just with the Allen key, just carry on tightening it. You'll be met by some resistance when the crank actually starts to pull itself on. Like now, you can see there's a bit of resistance now. Now this will take two hands, so you're gonna grab one side of the crank here, up here, grab one side of the crank and just hold it tight. Maybe have it held against something on the other side as well. You're just gonna start tightening this on. You'll feel the crank going on. You'll feel sort of a hard stop when the crank's threaded on all the way. Alright, now that you have this tightened, you're pretty much on the home stretch now. So grab a rag and then you just sort of like excess grease like through the bolt holes or whatever, clean all that off, and then all you got left to do, get your chain on, and there you go. That's it. That's how you fix a creaking bottom bracket with a different method that I found so much success with. If you like what you saw, subscribe, like, comment, and comment anything else that you want to see, any other repairs, any other maintenance, any other things that you want help with. Please comment in the description. This has been Hench Repairs. If you need any repairs in the Manchester area, please don't hesitate to contact me. My Instagram and my website linked in the description. On the website, there's a contact page all the way at the bottom. Fill that out, and thank you. Thanks for watching.